Hello everyone, happy Sunday. This is Simon with AvaTrade. Welcome back to our weekly webinar. And of course, a special welcome to the new people. And as you could see the title, your weekly trading plan, that's exactly what we're trying to do. We're trying to create a plan, create a structure, create a more organized way of trading. And as you know, in many, if not all aspects of our lives, planning could actually improve results. Never guaranteed results, of course, but definitely it's better to do things when we have a plan. And as traders like to say, you plan your trade and then you trade your plan. Okay, a few things about myself. This is me, Simon Friedman. I'm a senior account manager with AvaTrade. My overall trading experience is now 23 years. I started in June of 2000, and I worked as a proprietary trader for about 11 years straight. It was exciting and stressful environment. So after that, I moved into a less stressful way of trading, and I also started to mentor and educate other traders. And currently, I'm very happy that I have an opportunity to assist our customers at AvaTrade. The agenda of the webinar, pretty much the same every week for people that are regular here. We speak about indices, stocks, commodities, Forex, and before that, we'll try to discuss a big picture, what the market focuses on, and we'll be talking about that as well today. Risk warning, you can find the full statement at avatrade.com. What we do here, it's purely educational. We do not suggest any trades, of course. And right here are the channels that I highly recommend for you to follow. You have a Telegram, you have Twitter, and you have my favorite YouTube channel that you have tons of information stored. You have market reviews, you have educational materials, you have tutorials, you have most of the webinars, if not all of them. If you miss a webinar, you can always watch a recording at your convenient time. Great resource. You can just subscribe and click on that bell and you'll be notified when new things are coming in, and it's happening on a daily basis. Okay, before we go into the economic calendar, I just want to kind of share with you what's been happening. This past week, we had, of course, the most important event was the interest rate decision from Feds. And as the market priced in, there was no change. And some say it's on pause, some say it's before the next one. And nevertheless, they didn't increase as planned. They didn't increase the interest rate, but the language remains hawkish. They are, as Powell was speaking at the press conference, I was watching it. I don't know if you had the chance to watch it, but it's the same thing. We're focusing on bringing the inflation down to 2%. We'll take whatever it takes. We'll be watching the data and so on. So few things that caught my attention. Number one, of course, it's a regular language of Powell that we're still on course on doing things, even though there's some improvement, but not significant ones, so the plan is the same. And one of the key things was the question when they asked about a possible cuts on the rates coming up that the market was kind of hoping for. And Powell was very confident by saying that none of the members really feel that it's time, or at least we're getting close to that. So that's kind of a negative for the market, because market was actually hoping for that. So we are the same way. And next meeting, I just want to show you something that you could be also following the Fed Watch tool. And since the meeting, okay, so the next one is 26th of July. That's the next decision. And take a look, there's this almost 75% probability that will be an increase. And basically the focus is, or predictions are that the next two meetings, it's going to be, each meeting will be an increase of 0.25. So it looks like it's being priced in now. And we have another meeting to wait for. So that's on 26th of July. And you can see here, you can compare actually So back on May 18th, there was only 32 or 33% probability of an increase in July. Then on June 9th, it went up to 52, almost 53%. And then right after meeting on the 16th, the meeting was, or the decision was on the 14th, I believe. So it went to 74.4, and now we're staying there currently at 74.4% probability of the Feds increasing the interest rate in the next meeting. So I just wanted to share that with you. Now, so that's the thing. So we're done with Feds for this month. The stocks are strong. The whole focus is on artificial intelligence. A lot of talks about it, a lot of actions about it. I'll show you later NVIDIA stock, which is up since the beginning of the year by 192%. So the tech sector is strong. Nasdaq is strong with that. We have China trying to inject some stimulus into reviving the economy. We'll be looking at that as well. And we'll be looking at a few stocks and some Forex pairs and commodities. Okay, so let's start with the economic calendar. And it's important that I mention that here I just take out the high impact events, and you can filter it, you can customize it. You can find the economic calendar on our web trader or an app or any third-party provider. You can just Google economic calendar. You can find whatever looks better for you. I take out here high impact. As I said, there's more things. And again, some people ask questions. Is it important to follow economic calendar? It depends. It depends what you do. Some people like actually to trade right into the announcement. Some people just like to watch it. But I believe that knowing the certain things are coming out really helps all the traders. So by surprise, you wouldn't get caught in some trade into a major announcement like interest rate decision or NFPs or any other important announcement that you wouldn't know where it comes from, and you see these huge spikes and you feel in shock. So it's important to know ahead of time. Some people like to put it on the calendar, a reminder, and so on. So let's go through it really quick. By the way, Monday, it's a holiday in the US, before I forget to mention it. It's something they call Juneteenth National Independence Day. You can Google it, interesting history of that holiday. And it's a federal holiday. The market is closed. The stocks are closed. The bonds are closed. And I think the futures are having a short session that day. So that's just for the US market for Monday. And as you could see, there's no economic events posted for Monday. So Tuesday, we have interest rate decision from China. And as I mentioned, they're planning, or they are doing some stimulus. So I wouldn't be surprised if they might actually cut the interest rates, or they do some other measures, but that's one of the possibilities or probabilities here. Later, we have Bank of Australia meeting minutes. They will be discussing or announcing what they discussed in the past meeting. And we have the same thing from Bank of Japan, monetary policy meeting minutes. As you know, Bank of Japan last week didn't increase interest rate again. Yen is super weak, but the Japanese market is really enjoying the rally. So that's on Tuesday and Wednesday. CPI numbers from UK. We have retail sales from Canada, and we have testimony of Chair Powell. He speaks twice, on Wednesday and on Thursday. So he speaks in front of the Congress, and on Wednesday he speaks before the House of Financial Service Committee, and then on Thursday he speaks in front of Senate Banking Committee. So it's also very, very important, as traders, investors, analysts are going to be definitely closely watching this testimony. So that's both Wednesday and Thursday on Chair Powell. Now Thursday we have interest rate decision from Switzerland, and definitely Swiss franc is worth watching. And we have interest rate decision from UK following the CPI numbers on Wednesday. So that's Thursday. We have interest rate decision. We have a monetary policy summary, and that's going to be on Thursday. Busy day, of course, for UK market and for the currency, for the pound, of course. And as we said, that's the second day of testimony of Powell. And Friday, we have PMI numbers from Germany, the PMI numbers from European Union, and PMI numbers from UK. So these are the economic calendar events for the upcoming week. Okay, so before we move to the terminal, a few things I wanted to show to you. So that's NVIDIA. Everybody talks about it as NVIDIA is one of the main provider of the hardware for this very busy area of artificial intelligence. And together with that, actually interesting article, you can find it on marketwatch.com. It's usually not a great sign when the insiders are really selling into the move of the stock. I mean, logically, you could understand, yes, he made a lot of money. He wants to make some withdrawals or whatever. He wants to cash out and sell some stock. So actually, two insiders mentioned in the article. But generally speaking, if the insiders are selling, some people might think, okay, they're losing faith or they're running to sell, because in a lot of cases, selling by insiders is followed by the drop of the stock. I'm not sure it will happen here, but just something that caught my attention. Also, some analysts are setting up the price target for NVIDIA. They're raising it from $450 to $500. We'll take a look at NVIDIA in the moment. So that's something to pay attention to. And another thing that's interesting, also a nice article on MarketWatch, leverage loan defaults hit 25 billion, had for third worst year in history, says Goldman. First of all, Goldman knows what he's saying. We're talking about Goldman Sachs as a company. And leverage loans, these are the company loans that small or mid businesses that are borrowing the money on top of money they already borrowed in the past. So because of the high interest, it looks like they're having a hard time paying it. So a lot of defaults on those loans. And I guess it's going to hit financial institutions that are providing those loans. So also something important. And if you remember, a few weeks back, we mentioned that some other loans are building up, and credit cards defaults are building up as well. And another thing, I think in the U.S. now, the people that had the student loans on hold, they need to start repaying them again. So a lot of things are building up, and it looks like it's going to be a lot of stress on U.S. consumers and companies as well, as the interest rates remain high. So that's not so positive for the markets, not so positive for financial institutions. And that's it pretty much as far as the screenshots that I wanted to share with you. And let's move to MT4, and let's start with China. Actually, as you could see, since that announcement that they're trying to really revive the economy, Chinese index has been super strong. I don't know if it's the right thing to say super strong, but really responding strongly to that. And we are between a 50 and a 200 moving average. We're bouncing off 200 moving average, trying to break higher possibly. Now, together with that, as you know, every time I mention China, I mention few instruments, and that's as far as commodity. Crude oil reacted to it after a recent sell-off, and also copper has been reacting strongly to good news from China, or potential good news of China. And usually two currency pairs are reacting in a positive way. New Zealand dollar and Australian dollar usually are gaining strength. So as you could see, Australian dollar has been strong as it is due to the last increase in interest rate, which was a surprise in a way. So Australian dollar has been strong, nicely moving from around 0.65 all the way to almost 0.69. And New Zealand dollar as well is reacting nicely to Chinese kind of a boost of the economy, or possible boost of the economy. So those are the instruments that are reacting to China. Let's see if this continues. As I said, we have interest rate decision from China this coming week, and they might help to continue that upside move. Now, US indices, they've been very strong. As I mentioned, Nasdaq has been the strongest. Friday, it was finally a little bit of a red day, a little bit of a take profit before the long weekend. Let's see what comes the upcoming week. We did reach this level here from March 27th with the highest 15,268. We closed higher. So the question is, what's going to be this upcoming week? Will we continue and challenge the highs, or will we find resistance here and go into correction mode to the downside? As you could see, we had a double top here. One on January 30th, the end of January, was 15,259, and then we were by 9 points higher the end of March, and we had a nice move thanks to a lot of tech stocks moving higher, and we're challenging that level again. So very interesting to see how this week Nasdaq will react to that. S&Ps, we are also on the way to challenge those dates, the end of March and the end of January, which were approximately similar levels. We also had a red day on Friday. Let's see how this week will play for S&Ps. And you have Dow Jones as well. We actually are trading higher in those levels, and Thursday we closed higher, and Friday joining data indices, it was a red day for Dow Jones. Okay, so that's as far as US indices. Again, Monday the US market is closed, as I mentioned, so the full scale trading will resume on Tuesday. We have UK index, the UK 100, is having a hard time breaking through this recent resistance. We are between the 200 and 50 and 100 moving average, right in between. This week we have interest rate decision, which definitely will be affecting the equity markets and of course the pound as a currency as well. So I guess that decision and before that the inflation number will cause some moves on UK 100. DAX super strong. Even the increase in interest rate on euro didn't really spook it. As you could see, we are on the brand new territory. We just made all-time highs in DAX, 16,471 we closed. The question is, we don't have a resistance now, so we might continue higher, or we might come and retest the previous level, or at least immediate level of resistance that we had until now. On the daily chart, that's 16,369. It's about 100 points below. We might just fly higher, or we can establish support and then continue, or we can come break through this support that's not yet established, create new resistance and continue lower. So we'll be watching that. So that's as far as indices. Now, as I promised, I want to bring the NVIDIA to show it to you, and I'm going to bring it on MT5 right here. Take a look. The stock is super strong. It's up, as I mentioned, 192% this year. Take a look. The beginning of the year, it's right here. We were at 141, and we continue upside move. And the company, as I mentioned, I think a week or 2 weeks ago, hit the $1 trillion market capitalization, and the stock is moving higher as a provider of the hardware for artificial intelligence. Now, as I mentioned to you, some insiders are selling, a lot of shares. So let's see how this upcoming week will be showing on the stock. Do we hear more news of insiders selling? Do we hear upgrades or downgrades or any other comments from analysts? We'll find out soon. So that's as far as NVIDIA. It's really leading the tech sector. Okay, so now let's take a look at the major stocks and see what's happening. We had Netflix moving nicely to the upside on this new thing that they started with, cracking on the password sharing and new memberships. The stock had a nice move to the upside, and Friday was a strong sell-off. We just erased almost 3 days of advance. So let's see how this week plays out for Netflix. We might continue lower to look for some kind of support, or maybe it was a quick profit take and we'll continue higher. We'll be following on that. Google is showing tremendous weakness here as the stocks went up tremendously. Nasdaq went up and everything. If you remember me mentioning the past 2 weeks, we said that Google is struggling with the $125 mark, and then we had a sell-off last week, and we didn't really recover from there. So it's one of the big names that are showing a little bit of weakness. So if for some reason market comes in and sells off, Google is one of the weakest among the big names. So it's worth watching what's happening here. As of now, we do have a support around 121, and 125 level approximately is the level that Google is having a hard time closing above. So we'll be watching that. Now, Disney, new developments there. I think the CFO of the company announced that she's resigning. It doesn't look good for the company, as you could see. Disney is having a hard time running. It's been sitting around these levels. So after the announcement, we might see new moves to the downside. Usually, it doesn't look good on the company when someone of that rank is leaving the company. There should be a reason there, as they say. So that's Disney. Johnson & Johnson, if you remember, we mentioned it a few weeks in a row. We said that from this level, we're around 153. It might have a nice move to the upside, and it did. Actually went straight up, and we are challenging 200 moving average here. So at these levels, we might find some kind of resistance, at least temporarily resistance. So it might be some selling from around 165. Nice move, about $11 until now. We'll be following that. Also, we mentioned AT&T. If you remember, I mentioned that some analysts are setting up $17 target price, and we had a nice bounce from below $15 to $16 in holding. Let's see if this week we continue higher, and that $17 would be right at the 50 moving average. Let's see if that happens. Tesla continues higher, as we mentioned last week. They had a deal with GM, providing the charging stations to them. They had some tax credits from the government in the U.S. That's also contributes in selling more cars, and the stock is looking very nicely. We had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 consecutive weeks to the upside. Let's see if this move continues. Even Intel is moving higher. As we mentioned, we are in the kind of exciting time of AIs, and Intel as provider of processors, I think, involved with that as well. The stock is moving very strongly. Take a look. In a few days, we moved from around $30 to all the way to 36.5. So we'll be watching what's next. Microsoft has been a super strong stock, as they're also heavily involved with AI technology. And take a look, after hitting the resistance here, we are retracing a little bit. So Friday was a sell-off. So as of now, the focus is on this resistance that is from November 21st, week of November 21st of 2021. We did bounce off that resistance. Let's see if we get to challenge it again, or we might see a little bit of the correction to the downside in Microsoft. Apple stock as well It's been super strong Friday with the whole market. As I mentioned, when the market is selling, the best stocks are going to sell as well. And Apple also sold on Friday. Now, as I mentioned last week, we did have some announcements that Apple stock might be or is downgraded by some analysts. Are they predicting a slowdown in sales of iPhones? So let's see how that plays out. Also, Teva, as we mentioned, around here, around $7. It's trying to bounce. It's having a hard time, but it did move about $0.50 from here. We'll be watching something that we mentioned, that this range between $7 and $11 has been happening for a long time. So this is the second week we closed to the upside. Let's see if we break out of this level here, 765, 780, and might move to the upside. And the last one I wanted to bring up is Uber. Uber has been super strong. I guess since last earnings, the stock is strong. And take a look. I draw the line here, 44.29. This is the level from which we really sold. That was back at the end of 2021. We are close to that. We're about less than $1 away from that level. So let's see if how we play around 44.29. We might have a hard time breaking it, or we might just break through it and have a nice move to the upside, or build resistance and move lower. So 44.29. The stock is coming out of $30, and there was a month and a half ago. So a nice move for Uber. And that reminds me, actually, if you remember, months back, CEO was speaking, and then I shared that with you, that he's very bullish on the stock. The company is going to do great, new products, and so on. So finally, it shows after a very long time of stagnation for the stock in a way. Okay, that's as far as stocks, and let's move to commodities, and we will start with crude oil a little bit. As we mentioned, with China, it's moving higher. We are approaching the 50 moving average, and as of now, the range is approximately between $67 and $75. Let's see what the oil does, and definitely what China does. What global equity markets are doing is definitely will be affecting oil. Let's see if this move continues to the top of that range, or we're going to go and retest the lows again. And as I mentioned to you, copper is hitting 200 moving average here. Also, it's a resistance around 392, 390 over here. And the same thing, we'll see if any new developments in a positive way coming for China, and that might move copper higher, and also a global equity markets and a global outlook on economy. If it shows positive things, copper might move higher here. If not, we might see a correction to the downside. Natural gas, finally, last week it made some serious moves. Again, serious move. We're talking about 30 cents, right? So we are challenging the top of this channel around 260. We had an attempt here. We had an attempt here. It failed. So we need to see if natural gas is planning to go and challenge the next level of $3. We need to see a solid price action about 260, building support, a new support, and moving forward to the upside. If resistance stays and we're building resistance below the 260, we might challenge the 230 area and maybe 215 or 214 later on. But this move was strong. That was on Thursday, and then Friday got supported by another move to the upside, even though the market sold. So definitely we'll be watching natural gas. Gold, after this move on the Fed's decision, we had a nice move to the downside, and we right back about 19. This magical level of 1955 that I have my level at. It's really, really continuing being a magnet every time gold goes up or higher and higher or lower, it ends up at 1955 levels. So it still remains the same. We're right on 100 moving average here. Let's see if anything changes. We need to see some moves on the market. We need to see some moves on the dollar. And these are the things that are affecting gold a lot. Okay, so that's as far as gold. Cocoa, I want to bring cocoa in. We at the very serious levels here. If you take a look at the monthly chart, we did hit this level that I mentioned to you, I believe, last week of 2016 April. Let me draw the line there. So we pretty much at that level. High here was 32.35. We closed. Let me just remove the line. We closed 4 points higher after being higher. So this is a serious level and definitely worth watching cocoa after this tremendous move to the upside. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 weeks or 8 months, sorry, to the upside. We hit that level from which we made the lower low, a nice sell-off. So definitely we'll be watching this current level on cocoa and possible reversal or continuation. Of course, the other scenario is always possible. We can continue and challenge this double or triple top that we had back in 2014. Okay, so that's on cocoa. And soft commodities. I don't know if you heard, there's some news. You can't call it rumors because it's official. Some analysts are afraid of El Nino coming, this huge storm, and they are predicting that commodities are going to be affected a lot because of the weather changes and everything else. I'm just speculating here. Maybe that's why we had the huge move on softies. If you take a look on the daily chart, we had a nice recovery on wheat. We are above the 100 moving average here, challenging the previous resistance. Corn had a super nice move, possibly on the way to cover the gap that I mentioned to you a few weeks back. Also a possibility. And soybeans are actually almost closing that gap, also a tremendous move to the upside. So these three commodities, wheat, corn, soybeans, especially corn and soybeans being the strongest, worth watching, either a continuation to the upside or a reversal, because this move was very strong and very fast and sometimes being followed by reversals, or if that threat of El Nino is serious, we might see actually a nice bull market in commodities. As you know, commodities, especially the soft commodities, agricultures, are very sensitive to the weather changes. So something that is definitely worth watching. Now, let's move to Forex, and we'll start with Euro. Euro had a nice move to the upside. We had interest rate increase by 0.25. As you know, a nice move to the upside. We'll see if that continues. We might continue from here and challenge 110, or we can come back to 108 level and see if we hold that support. So far, a nice move and holding to the upside. And of course, we missed the dollar index. It's showing the weakness well below all moving averages here. We're sitting on 101.84 closed on Friday. The next level of support could be around 166, and we came here from 104. If you remember, we were holding steadily a 104 level. Let's see what happens there. Now, Japanese yen, as I mentioned to you, again, nothing changed there, even though in the weakness of a dollar, but this pair dollar yen has been moving higher. We're on the way to recover or to challenge, I meant to say, this level here, 142.25, from which was sold out, and that was back in November 2022. This is the weekly chart. On the daily chart, every move down, it's causing another continuation to the upside. So as you could see here, this was the 2 days in a row. That was back in 2022 November, and from there we went into a strong down trend, and it lasted till January, and from there we started to recover, and we are moving and continue moving higher on dollar yen. So if the dollar regains its strength, this can continue moving higher. And if we hear some new developments from Japanese or bank from Japan, we might see some or hear some news as they have the last meeting minutes this coming week, as we mentioned. So maybe they will speak of some changes in policy or some actions, and that might actually reverse this move. So we'll be watching that. Now, as I mentioned to you, Australian and New Zealand dollar are on the way up, and also being affected by Chinese economy trying to recover here. So we'll be watching on that possible continuation. We have Swiss franc. There's a decision from Switzerland on interest rate. Let's see if this changes here. For a while, we had a nice recovery at the starting beginning of May on dollar Swiss. So you could see we retested this resistance here from April 10th. And from then, we start building a resistance around 100 moving average. And then 3 days in a row, we had the sell-off, and that's a weakness of a dollar related, of course. And then Friday was a little bit of recovery. So let's see if we continue this week to challenge this recent reestablished resistance around 91.20, or we might move lower and fish for the bottoms. Let's see if that is the case for this week. Okay, and of course, the two famous ones, the Turkish lira remains weak. Even on the weakness of the dollar, this pair didn't really move lower, so it's holding there. Again, all this, the same monetary policy that the head of Turkey is continuing, and the inflation is huge. The currency is suffering tremendously. So let's see if we hear anything new. As of now, after this tremendously strong move to the upside, we are holding and not really correcting at all. And USD ZAR, the opposite, had a nice correction in the weakness of the dollar after hitting all-time highs. We almost hit 20. As I mentioned last week, we hit 1991.40 on June 1st, and since then we've been really sliding lower. Let's see if this current level might be establishing a support. That's the level from which we started this move around here, around 18.16, and we're right on that level. As you could see, the hourly chart, we went below it, then we went above again, and we are holding this 18.16 level, and we'll be watching it this upcoming week. Maybe it's time to turn around. If not, we might be sliding lower, retesting the next level of support, and maybe 200 moving average, which is currently below 18, 17.94. We might be testing that as well if we break and start establishing new resistance around these current levels. Okay, that's as far as currency. And of course, one more, USD CAD, Canadian dollar has been strong, of course, since I believe there was an increase in interest rate, but also it is reacting strongly to the price of crude oil, and it was a tremendous move to the downside in dollar CAD, and we are below the 50 moving average, on the way possibly retesting the 200 moving average. So this is 3 consecutive weeks to the downside, and let's see if that move continues, or we might find some kind of a support at a near future. So that's as far as currencies. And let's take a look quickly at Bitcoin. Close to the weekend, I think Friday and Saturday, there were some developments in the SEC against Coinbase. There's some agreements or some things being set. You can find articles. I don't want to quote it. That's a lot of information. And it looks like they're finding some common ground. Bitcoin is responding in a positive way. We were almost, what were we last week? The low was below 25,000, 24,734. Currently, we're trading at around 26.5. Nice recovery here. Let's see if that positivity holds for cryptocurrencies. We might move higher here, or we go and retest 25 again. Okay, so just to put it all together, we had Feds put interest rate increase on hold, and next one is in July. And as far as the information that I share with you, it's about 74.5% probability there will be another increase. We have NVIDIA leading the tech sector. It's all AI related, and at the same time, insiders are unloading the stocks. So let's see how that plays out. We have economic calendar with some important things this week that includes interest rate decision from UK. We have Monday, unusual day, so it's going to be a long weekend for US equities. Monday is closed. The bonds and stocks are not going to be opening, and indices are going to be having a short session. And that's it pretty much. I want to wish everyone a great weekend, whatever it's left. Get some rest, get some energy for the upcoming week. And definitely I want to wish everyone a productive and successful week. And we'll be back next week. All the best. Take care.